The Valley of Tears is the name given to an area in the Golan Heights after it became the site of a major battle in the 1973 Yom Kippur War, known as the Valley of Tears Battle, which was fought between 6 and 9 October. Although massively outnumbered, the Israeli forces managed to hold their positions, and on the fourth day of the battle the Syrians withdrew, just as the Israeli defenses were almost at the point of collapse. Background: on Rosh Hashanah Eve, the Israeli 7th Brigade was ordered to move 1 battalion to the Golan Heights to strengthen the Barak Armored Brigade, under the command of Yitzhak ben Shohim. The brigade commander Avigdor Ben-Gal concluded that something would happen on Yom Kippur. He ordered his artillery troops to survey the area and prepare targets and firing tables. He held a meeting with his battalion commanders to go over the main points of the operational plans that were previously implemented in the Israeli Northern Command. Without notifying his superiors, he took them on a tour of the front line. By 12 o'clock on Yom Kippur, the 6th of October, the brigade was concentrated in the Nafak area. Nafak was an important military base at the junction of the Petroleum Road, which crosses diagonally the northern Golan Heights, and a road which leads down to the strategic Bnot Yukov bridge over the Jordan River and into northern Israel. Israeli intelligence estimated that Syria had more than 900 tanks and 140 batteries of artillery immediately behind the Syrian line. The Syrian 7th Division was one of the units ready to attack. The actual number of Syrian tanks was about 1,260. Each Syrian infantry division had 1 infantry brigade, 1 mechanized infantry brigade, and 1 armored brigade. The infantry and mechanized infantry brigades each had 3 infantry battalions, a battalion of 40 tanks, an AA artillery battalion and a field artillery battalion. The armored brigade had 3 battalions of 40 tanks each. The division also had a regiment of division field artillery, a divisional AA field artillery regiment, a reconnaissance regiment with a company attached to each brigade, and a chemical company with a section attached to each brigade. The total force of the division was about 10,000 men, 200 tanks, 72 artillery pieces and 72 anti-aircraft guns and SAMs. The 7th Division, under the command of Brigadier General Omar Brash, had about 80% of its tanks and APCs. There were also independent armored brigades with about 2,000 men and 120 tanks each. One of the independent brigades attached to Brash's division was a Moroccan brigade. In the rear were the 1st and 3rd armored divisions, with 250 tanks each. The Syrian attack force was backed by at least 1,000 artillery pieces. The Syrian plan was for the 7th Division to break through near Ahmadiyya in the north, while the 5th Division did the same near Rafah in the south. This would lead to the double envelopment of most of the Israeli forces in the Golan. Each division was to advance in 2 echelons. The 7th Division to strike westward through El Ram and Wasat, while the 5th Division advanced to the Arak Bridge north of the Kinneret. If the 5th Division broke through, or if both the 5th and 7th did, the 1st Division would drive between the 5th and 9th for Nafak to attack the Israeli forces caught between the pincers of the 5th and 7th. The Israeli forces in the Golan were 170 tanks and 60 artillery pieces divided between the 7th and Barak brigades. Prelude: at 10 o'clock on Yom Kippur, Ben-Gal and other brigade commanders convened with General Yitzhak Hofi in Nafak, where Hofi told them that intelligence was estimating the Syrians would attack the day. At around 1800, the 7th Brigade was assigned as a reserve force around Nafak and was to prepare for a counterattack in either the north or south sector, or to split and support both. Ben-Gal then drove to meet 1 battalion in Sindiana and addressed the officers. He called an orders group at Nafak for 1400, assuming it would give his 2nd battalion enough time to organize. As they gathered to wait for him, the Syrian artillery and planes began to attack. Ben-Gal's men ran back to the battalions while Ben-Gal moved the headquarters out of the camp. After an hour, he was ordered to move to the northern sector in the Kunitra area and to transfer the 2nd Battalion to the southern sector, under command of the Barak Brigade. The 7th Brigade was left in charge of the northern sector from Kunitra northwards with 2 battalions. As part of his usual strategy, Ben-Gal decided to maintain a reserve force, and began building a 3rd battalion. He transferred a company from 1 battalion and placed it under the command of his armored infantry battalion, thus creating a 3rd battalion framework with tanks. With reinforcements, the new battalion gradually became a proper one. Ben-Gal now had 3 battalions available for maneuvering purposes. He received Lieutenant Colonel Yair Nafsh's 74th Battalion, which was in the line with the fortifications in the northern sector. With Nafsh's battalion, the brigade had about 100 tanks. The 1st Battalion was stationed on the Purple Line. The line began at the fortification A1, directly east of Masad on the foothills of Mount Hermon, and ran south about 6 kilometers to Mount Hermon.